Today we're looking into this unfolding legal situation around Shannon Sharpe, former NFL star, now big media personality.
Yeah, it's a really multi-layered thing going on. You've got this huge civil lawsuit with some, frankly, very serious allegations.
Right. And at the same time, all this other stuff is hitting the public domain.
Exactly. Settlement offers being discussed, audio clips surfacing, these really explicit text messages. It's a lot.
It really is. Sharpe's facing, what, a $50 million civil suit? Alleging sexual assault, battery, things like that. Okay, so let's dive in. First things first. What exactly are the allegations in this lawsuit?
Okay, so the plaintiff, who's using the name Jane Doe, filed in Nevada. And the claims are serious. Assault, sexual assault, battery, sexual battery.
And intentional infliction of emotional distress. That's quite a list.
It is. And the suit claims these incidents happened late 2024 and early 2025.
Right. And Law and Crimes reporting mentions this apparently followed what the lawsuit calls a rocky consensual relationship.
Yeah, one that started in 2023 after they met at a gym.
The suit also makes a point of the age difference, Sharpe being 30 years older, which, often raises questions about power dynamics.
Definitely something the lawsuit seems to be hinting at, yeah. And the specifics reported are quite detailed.
Like the allegation he insisted on recording sexual activity.
Sometimes without her knowledge, the suit claims, and then allegedly sharing those videos.
Wow. Okay. And there's more.
Yeah, the suit also alleges he said things to sort of belittle her, make her feel worthless, claims of manipulation, control, threat.
Intimidation, too. And even accessing her apartment complex without permission. That paints a really controlling picture.
It does. And there's one particularly disturbing incident detailed according to Law and Crime.
What was that?
Where she apparently tried to share her location with friends because she was scared.
Okay.
And the lawsuit alleges Sharpe then grabbed her neck while a gun was visible and threatened to kill her if she did it again.
That is incredibly serious.
Yeah.
A very specific and violent accusation.
It really is. And it definitely contrasts sharply with the defense's narrative. Of course, these are allegations at this point.
Absolutely. Need to keep stressing that. But the core of the suit revolves around alleged sexual assault and rape.
Yes, specifically incidents claimed in October 2024 and then again in January 2025, where she allegedly pleaded for him to stop.
Okay, so those are the claims. How has Shannon Sharpe responded?
Yeah.
Because he hasn't been quiet.
No, definitely not. He's been very public, very direct, went on Instagram, called the claims false, and labeled the whole thing a shakedown.
And he specifically targeted the plaintiff's lawyer, Tony Busby, right?
He did. Claimed Busby targets black men, which is a pretty strong accusation itself.
He also brought up a potential sex tape clip, said Busby might release like a 30-second bit to make him look guilty.
Yeah, but then he said the full tape, maybe 10 minutes, would show something different. But then he added he doesn't have the full video.
That's an interesting tactic. Mentioning a video you don't possess.
It is. He maintained the encounter was consensual, happened during the day at her invocation, basically a deliberate setup.
And he also took the step of revealing her first name and supposed OnlyFans username, which obviously we're not repeating.
Right. A controversial move, definitely part of his defense strategy, it seems.
He said he wants to be transparent, defend himself vigorously. And his lawyer, Lanny Davis, backed that up.
Oh, yeah. Davis put out a statement flatly denying any coercion, any misconduct, especially rape. He used the term egregious attempt at blackmail.
So a very strong, very combative denial from their side. Okay, now let's talk about these text messages that got released.
Yes. This was a big development. Sharpe's team released reportedly 44 pages of texts between him and the plaintiff.
And the content, as reported by TMZ, the New York Post, it's extremely explicit.
Very much so. We're talking about messages allegedly from her going back to like October 2023.
Yeah, mentioning things like wanting him to use a dog collar, choke her during sex.
Requests about being tied up, BDSM. One alleged message from March 2024 saying, I want to be abused, daddy.
And another one, I've always wanted a black baby. These are incredibly private messages being aired out.
Absolutely. And apparently Sharpe replied to one about being tied up, saying something like, if I knew how to, I would.
So what's the argument from Sharpe's lawyer, Lanny Davis, about these texts?
Well, Davis says they show a consensual adult relationship that, included role-playing, sexual fantasies, that kind of thing.
Trying to establish a baseline of consent for rough or kinky activity, basically.
Pretty much. But the plaintiff's attorney Tony Busby has pushed back hard on that.
How so?
He argues these texts are irrelevant because they're mostly from before the dates of the alleged assaults in late 2024.
Right. His point being, just because someone consented to something, even something extreme, on one occasion,
doesn't mean they consent to it or anything else every single time after that. Consent needs to be specific and ongoing.
Exactly. Past consent doesn't equal future consent. That's a really critical legal point.
It really is. Okay, so moving from the text, there's also this audio recording.
Ah, yes, the one the plaintiff released. Purportedly a conversation between them. It's short, but impactful.
Definitely. According to the law and crime transcript, you hear her say, "Don't manipulate me."
And his alleged response.
"If you say that word one more time, I'm going to choke the bleep out of you next time I see you."
Wow. And then she says something like, "Well, I don't want to be choked."
Yeah, after a pause. And he allegedly replies, "Yes, you do. I don't think you have a choice in the matter."
That adds a very different dimension than just, consensual BDSM talk.
For sure. Busby called the audio not sexual, not playful, but disturbing, aggressive, and dangerous. He says it shows how Sharpe treated her.
So that audio seems like a direct counterpunch to the defense's narrative built around those texts.
It certainly complicates that narrative, yeah. Which brings us to the settlement offer. Another twist.
Right. This came out too. Lanny Davis, Sharpe's lawyer, revealed Sharpe offered at least $10 million before the lawsuit was filed.
Some initial reports even said tens of millions.
So why offer that much if you maintain innocence? Davis's explanation was
that it was purely to avoid public embarrassment, the fallout, not an admission of guilt. He blamed it on the alleged blackmail attempt.
Saying they offered the money because she threatened to release private sexual material.
Exactly. But Mike Florio over at Pro Football Talk seemed pretty skeptical about that reasoning.
Yeah. What was his take?
He basically said, if you're being blackmailed, isn't the usual response to go to the police or maybe file your own lawsuit first?
Right. Offering 8 figures seems counterintuitive if your main goal is just stopping blackmail and avoiding public embarrassment, especially when you then publicly disclose the rejected offer.
Yeah, it seems a bit contradictory, as Florio pointed out. Why bring it up publicly after it failed?
And Tony Busby confirmed his client did reject the $10 million.
Which signals she's determined to pursue the lawsuit in court.